I'm Maggie Glass reporting. The mask mandate in schools was lifted on March 1st in Virginia by the General Assembly. Many parents were happy about the decision, but not many school districts or teachers who felt that it is still too soon to remove COVID-19 protections. John Wilson, a parent of 3 young children in Stanton, is an anti-mask activist who's argued since last year that the risk of COVID-19 for school children is exaggerated. Wilson believes that parents have the right to decide what public health measures are best for their children.
That's mine.
Why is this a matter of parental choice?
Part of the reason why I think it's a matter of parental choice is because of the fact that I think it's been politicized. I'm not saying that
This is the bottom.
the health and well-being of our students and teachers is not a concern, but I think, if I can be so frank, this is about teaching people to submit rather than keeping people safe.
The notion that masks in schools are a plot to control the population and not a way to control the pandemic is part of a much larger parental choice movement, some would say ideology, that rose as a political force in 2021.
Alrighty, Virginia, we won this thing!
Last November, the parents' movement helped elect Republican candidate Glenn Youngkin as governor of Virginia. Youngkin energized mostly white suburban parents by claiming he would end the teaching of critical race theory in schools. Despite official assurances that it is not part of any curriculum.
Critical race theory is anti-white.
How does looking at skin color or creating victims or oppressors help our children?
It's not American.
As part of that conversation, some parents began to argue that masks in schools were part of a liberal elitist movement bent on achieving social obedience.
You do not have the legal authority to issue a mandate.
I'm his parent. I get to choose what goes on him.
Half of this country's political persuasion, it seems, is top-down control, let the experts decide, keep your mouth shut, stay in line, do what you're told, and we're going to perfect everything if you guys would just stop getting out of line. Well, if you have people that are from the earliest age inculcated into a system of being looked at askance or as an outsider or as a racist or bigot or whatever for questioning authority, if you're trying to control people, that makes it much easier.
Wilson and other anti-mask activists did have a safety argument, that the rate of people contracting COVID-19 no longer justified all COVID-19 protocols.
Out of 289,968,000 that have gotten COVID, and that's just what's been reported. Who knows how many more have it? Yeah. You're dealing with, again, a 0.0048% chance of dying. Now, you're right, there's a risk, but that's an exceedingly small risk. That's a very small risk. That's a vanishingly small risk.
Vanishingly small or not, the threat of COVID-19 is still high enough for some parents to be concerned. Catherine Lawn, a mother of 3 children in Charlottesville, is a pro-mask activist and UVA nurse. As a healthcare worker, she has experienced firsthand COVID-19's impact on public health. Lawn was part of a letter hundreds of parents in Charlottesville and surrounding locations signed, publicly committing to continue to mask their children and themselves until new guidelines and strategies emerged, including vaccinations for all children.
The notion that it is simply to exert control is nonsensical, right? Like, there's no mandate that you wear red shoelaces, right? That like it's not about controlling, it's about addressing a global pandemic. It's about keeping people from dying. Our decisions about whether or not to mask should be based on specific criteria around things like vaccination rates and the current COVID transmission rates.
We're on the path to getting back to normal.
In January, Governor Youngkin signed an executive order instructing every school board in the state to end mask mandates.
As we battle COVID, it's parents that should decide the health measures taken for their children.
But Youngkin's executive order did not transition easily into schools. Instead, it created statewide confusion.
School mask mandates
make masking optional in schools.
Parents have the right to decide.
Now is not the time to make a decision to remove these preventative measures. It's reckless, self-serving, and can leave blood on your hands.
Several school districts sued, saying the governor lacked authority.
Some schools want students to wear them. Others say they're optional. Suing over Governor Glenn Youngkin's order on masks.
7 school districts that have joined this lawsuit
challenge his legal authority.
Violates the Constitution.
Looking forward to hopefully all those lawsuits going away.
With all of this happening at the height of the Omicron COVID outbreak.
The rapid spread of the Omicron variant.
The number of hospitalizations in this country now setting an all-time record.
A world record for confirmed daily cases.
More than 441,000 new infections were reported.
The largest volume of patients that have been the sickest.
Omicron variant is responsible for nearly 60% of all COVID cases across the country.
What surprised the teachers and many elected school board members across the state was how angry and emotional parents became over what they thought was a common sense policy on wearing masks.
Actions have consequences. If you vote for this, we will come for you in a non-violent way.
Amidst protests, petitions, and violent threats,
You need to be arrested!
Multiple school board members in Virginia have left their position. In Greene County, Vice Chairman Jason Collier resigned from the school board in late January, directly after a 3-2 vote, tossing the mask mandate. In Page County, a mother was arrested after threatening to bring loaded guns to a school in protest of mask mandate changes.
And I will bring every single gun loaded and ready.
Sherry Page, a 10-year school board veteran in Orange County, faced angry parents in January when she was the sole vote in favor of keeping the mask mandate.
Has this sort of situation happened before where you've been, where you found yourself on the outside of decisions on the school board in Orange County?
Never.
Okay.
Never. First time. Well, you know, I raised 2 kids that went through Orange County Public School. All parents have rights to make decisions for their children. I guess what I have had to come to terms with is when those rights take over health and safety of everybody, not just a few, but everybody.
Last January, thousands of teachers still saw COVID as a threat, and the governor's order as a matter of politics over public safety. The very week Youngkin signed the order was close to the height of the Omicron variant spike, with over 15,000 COVID deaths, and almost all of them unvaccinated people. In Essex County, Michelle Dungy, an elementary school teacher and mother of 3 school-aged children, joined a call-out protest in which 75 teachers called in sick.
Can you all give our Essex County public school teachers a round of applause, please?
Dungy says teachers remain concerned that they and their children are still vulnerable.
Because it was killing people. Like, it's not like your traditional flu or chicken pox or stomach virus. COVID was killing people. To be safe, just like they did when you had polio and when you had smallpox, all that, everybody did exactly what they needed to do to eradicate it so that it would not be taking people out.
And when you say it was a political issue, what were both sides saying that made it political?
The Republicans would say, hey, it's just the Democrats trying to have their choice, trying to have their votes, you know, things like that. They want it their way. They don't care about anybody else.
Dungy also believes that race was a factor. For her, the anti-mask side came from a white parent movement, which was unconcerned about how it affected everyone else in the county.
And then they were just misconstruing information and just like making it a real issue. And honestly, it became a racial divide in the county because of this. It was racial and political. It was Democrats against the Republicans, black and white. That's how it was being portrayed. It was a divide in the county. It was divide in the school system based off of just the no mask and then taking away the whole mitigation altogether. I think people were just trying to find some excuse as to why we should take masks away so suddenly. We had kids come into the building. My daughter didn't understand, and she's 5. Why? She even said it to my sister. Well, everybody should have their mask on because people are sick. We had kids crying because they didn't understand why all of a sudden this decision was made to just take a mask away, because it was actually making them feel safe.
Valerie Taylor, Another elementary school teacher in Essex County is the president of EEA, the local chapter of the Virginia Education Association.
To opt out of mask wearing has made the stress levels reach a height no one could have predicted.
Taylor says she and other teachers also had to fight the school administration over removing every COVID-19 protocol.
Because I wanted to contact trace it. I also felt that by taking that away, that I would be lying to parents. We've always been told to build relationships with our parents, good relationship with our parents or guardians, whoever it may be. And I felt like that was not really keeping up with that spirit of having good relationships, good communication.
You're not allowed to tell other parents in the class if a student is positive?
No. Essex employees are tired. They are fed up. They want to be heard. They don't want things to be done and then as an afterthought, come back and ask us our opinion. Or even after the afterthought, ask us our opinion and our opinion still doesn't make a difference. That becomes frustrating because we feel devalued. We feel like we don't have nothing to say, and we do. And we're the ones that's in the classrooms, on the school buses, in the cafeteria, wherever that we are in our position and our roles are. We are in those positions every day.
Across the country, teachers have been quitting at alarming rates. For 2 years now, every school in Virginia has struggled with teacher absences and teachers having to work overtime, leading to a widespread burnout. In a national poll, 86% of teachers said they knew someone who quit or retired because of the pandemic. Seth Kennard, the principal of Baker Butler Elementary School in Albemarle County, has faced difficulties trying to combat this teacher burnout in his own school.
Yeah, the teacher absence has been tough. And it's not just teachers, it's bus drivers, it's custodians, it's office staff, it's administrators, it's everyone. It's really been all hands on deck. So, all of us have acted as substitutes. I've taught second grade, I've taught third grade. We've done whatever we can to keep the building running. And our philosophy has been keeping the core day, as normal as possible has been our key.
Then, in mid-February, Omicron retreated, and the CDC said that masks could be removed in areas with low transmissibility rates, a standard which applied almost everywhere in Virginia. That still doesn't mean the COVID-19 threat is over, and at a time when public safety depends more than ever on vaccinations, it turns out school children are the least likely to have their shots. Ryan McKay, the Director of Policy Planning and COVID-19 Operations for the Blue Ridge Health District, said the state is watching vaccinations closely. Are you concerned about the low vaccination rate amongst children 5 to 11 years old?
Right now, yes. In our health district, we have about 54% in Albemarle County and Charlottesville, but our remaining localities are much lower, as low as 20% of that population. And what that means is it creates additional risks. I think parents have a lot to consider, and while that seems like a number and it's a statistic, it's 1,000 children that spent time in a hospital where they weren't at home, they weren't seeing their friends, they're socially not active, educationally they're missing out, and then that really puts them at severe risk for death as well.
I've heard school children described as disease vectors. Why is that?
School children as disease vectors. Well, if we think about some of the things that we do as adults, frequent hand washing, we don't touch our face as much, we're not in close contact. School children by nature are going to be playing, they're in close proximity. That's sort of a learned behavior in terms of frequent hand washing, not touching your face, really identifying when you have symptoms. And so disease is just about the risks and the nature of their behavior as opposed to sort of being a petri dish, if you will.
The low vaccination rate for children is also connected to the anti-mask parents who believe the risk of a vaccine justifies their hesitation.
Again, 0.0048% chance of dying. You've probably got at least that high a chance of some sort of adverse health effect from the vaccine. So is it worth it? Not to me.
COVID-19 has been a battle, and everyone is exhausted, but the teachers told me they aren't ready to give up. Are you hopeful that you'll see change in the future?
Yes. You always have to have hope. If you don't have hope, then it's just doom, it's just dark, and you can't work in darkness. You just can't. So you gotta have hope and gotta pray that things will get better.
Teachers argue that it's the anti-mask parents who brought politics into schools, and that until vaccine rates for children increase, we still need to see COVID-19 protections.